Okay, today let's go over a couple of different things. This week, Aaron correctly pointed out, you don't have anything due on Connect, right? But there is an assignment that's due on in Brightspace. It's called Supplemental Problems. Okay, and I'll kind of walk you through that here in a little bit. And then also, I just put in there that I'd like to get your outlines only for your final paper for Project 2. And again, I'll spend just a little bit of time going over that and kind of what my expectations are, etc. So let's take a look at those supplemental problems. If you come down week 9, that's what we're in, I think, right? Got the checklist. If you download here the supplemental problems right in the Excel spreadsheet, okay, that makes it pretty simple for you. I've got it in a Word doc too. I don't know why you'd want that, but just download it in the Excel spreadsheet. There is video, okay, that'll help you through that. If you want to watch the video, you sure can. And the Dropbox for it is right there. Let me drag over that if I can. Hopefully it'll let me. There we go. This is what the spreadsheet looks like. Let me make that just a little smaller. So if you go down it, you'll just see here you're solving for payments, right? So you're solving for PMTS, right? You come here, you click on that, payment, gee, that's just the first one that came up. And I give you the stuff, right? So you've got the information right here. You can lock it into there. It should be that simple. It's just kind of an exercise. I want to make sure you guys are comfortable in Excel. You know, in Connect, I couldn't really go and check and make sure you guys were doing everything in Excel, but this way I can kind of do a little spot check on that. Then the next series down is present value. Okay, guess what? You're going to solve for present value. That's over here a little bit further. Boom. Okay. Next one down is future value, so you're going to solve for future value. Okay. I think if you look at these, I'm pretty sure that I have all of these things set up so that you don't even have to do a lot of the multiplying by 12 to get to monthly and dividing by 12 to get to monthly. I think I've got them pretty well set up. You know, here I've got present value $10,000. Number of months is 36 in this case, or periods, right? Number of periods, I should say. And the interest per month, I already have it. Okay, so you don't have to divide by 12 there, right? Okay, and in this case, it's 250 grand. The number of years, okay, so this is going to be an annual payment then. So I've already got it set up for 10 payments, 10 annual payments at an interest rate of 5% per annum. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Present value, so you're going to solve for PV over here. Okay, again, should be pretty simple. Boom, PV. Future value, same thing. Okay, then down here, and I don't know that we did a ton of these, but you'll solve for rate. Okay, and I'm not asking you to do a ton of them here either, right? But same thing. Hit your deal. You got your answer there. I got to go to financial rates, the one I'm looking for. There it is. Okay, solve for that. Away I go. I think the only one that gets a little bit tricky, oops, got to get down here again, is the number of periods. I don't know that we solved for number of periods, so, okay. And if you look at it, I've got the payments are X, present value is X, and I've already given you, okay, this is the rate per month, and this is the rate per month. So again, you shouldn't have, this is a monthly payment, present value, okay, that's the monthly rate, so you shouldn't have to do any adjusting when you put that in. And just like any of those others, you can solve for NPER. Okay. So again, those should all be relatively simple for you guys to whip through without too many problems. And then you do need to just submit the full Excel worksheet, workbook right to that Dropbox. Okay, when you get it done, put your name on it or something. You know, it'll be in your Dropbox, so I'll figure it out. But if you label that, it makes it a little bit nicer. Okay, flip it in there, and then you're done. Okay, that shouldn't take you too long. Great thing to work on in class. I think I've got it due for Thursday. So yeah, that way you get it done out of the way. Again, it shouldn't take you very long. You should be able to get that done in either today's class period or Thursday's class period without too many problems, which should give you plenty of time then. And if you want to, get them done and have me come around and take a look at them, right? Okay. Should give you time then to work on your outline. And let's take a look at that. Under Project 2, again, if you come down, these are the drop boxes here. But if you come down, you'll see I've got some examples for outlines down here. And there's a video, okay, that you can do, you can listen to, that explains kind of what I'm looking for in the outline. Here's explains the assignment. I guess I'll call that up maybe. So you might want to read through this, right? You're going to create an outline for your final project, okay? Again, I say my instructions for the final paper are a little bit ambiguous, meaning your financials are going to take you where your financials go. I can't really change that, but that said, there are things that I absolutely expect to be in the final paper, and they're listed here, right? Okay. I want you to have just a really brief discussion about the industry in which your company competes. Caterpillar competes in the heavy equipment industry, competes against the likes of John Deere and what are some of the other big ones? There's some of the foreign companies that it competes against. Yeah, Hitachi. There's another one, isn't there, that begins with a K, but I can't remember. Komatsu, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So there's some of the competitors. You might want to just kind of talk. I wouldn't talk about the competitors, but you might want to mention who the competitors are. You might want to mention their position, okay? And you'll probably find that, you know, is Caterpillar the leading company in that industry? You know, are they close? And you may not find exact, but that's fine, okay? You just try to find kind of a little bit of information about the industry in which your company competes and maybe your company's position within that industry to the best of your ability, okay? A brief history of the company. Again, this is brief, you know. I don't want you to spend a ton of time. Walmart was founded in Bentonville, Arkansas by good Sam Wall, right? Back in the 50s probably is when the first store opened, something like that. And Sam liked to drive around in an old Ford pickup that had a big dent in it, and he drove that till the day he died, what I understand. But anyhow, that's talking about Sam, not Walmart, right? And now Walmart has grown to X, right? Okay, so I got a brief history about it. A discussion about the company strategy, okay? Remember, I think that there's really just a couple of strategies. You know, I think that you're either going to differentiate or you're going to be a low-cost provider. Walmart's probably a low-cost provider, right? Okay, how about Fastenal? They might fit into that kind of sort of third category that I call. They might be kind of a niche provider, right? You know, they sell kind of industrial tools and things like that. Yeah, I don't, you know, but that makes them a differentiator, right? If they're in a niche category, they're not niche low cost. I don't know. You could argue the Harbor Freight might be kind of a niche low cost. You know, if you go to Harbor Freight, they got cheap prices for things. Of course, a lot of their stuff's kind of cheap too, but some of it's pretty good. You know, so you got to tell me, I guess, kind of what their strategy is, right? And then lastly, an in-depth analysis of the financial data. Okay, that's the emphasis. This is a business finance class. The other stuff's just to give me a little bit of background of the company and whatnot. So what I really want you to do, and it's in the deal here, is come down here at 2019. I'll have to change that to 2020, but the rubric should stay the same. Basically, sometimes I'll change a little bit. I read through it and say I didn't really like that, so I might. But it'll stay the same. The category weights will stay the same. That part won't change. I just may add or detract some ways I look at it. So you may want to take a look at that. Here it is. Okay, this gives you an idea of the importance of things, right? Organization, you got to have both a proper introduction and a conclusion. Okay, now, for whatever reason, I talk about this endlessly, it seems like, and in past years, I'll get people, they'll submit their outline, and they don't tell me that it's a proper intro and conclusion, which I'll tell you what that is in just a second. Then I have them submit their introduction and conclusion, and it's still not a proper introduction and conclusion, which I give them feedback on. And then I get their final paper, and it still doesn't have a proper introduction and conclusion. For whatever reason, I don't know, there's a hang up there or something. You know, a proper introduction and conclusion tells me what you're going to tell me, right, in introduction. You need to kind of preview what you're going to tell me or summarize what you're going to tell me. It's as simple as saying, hey, I've chosen Fastenal. I'm going to tell you about the industry in which it competes, a little bit about its history, its strategy, and then I'm going to give you an in-depth financial analysis. Okay, that's basically it. I mean, you might want to pretty it up a little bit, but I'm giving you the raw kind of what needs to be in an introduction. The conclusion. Geez, I've told you about the industry in which they competed, their history, you know, and you might throw in some tidbits, you know, about how they started in 1956 with Sam Wall, or whatever the date may be, okay? And in conclusion, then, you're going to give me a recommendation, right? Recommendation of, you know, this is a great company, I think you ought to invest in it, or it's a crappy company, right? So the layout of the paper matches the order of the introduction. So, you know, if you say, I'm going to tell you about the history and industry, that's how your paragraph should show up, right? Okay. Smooth transition between sentence and paragraph, so I expect you to write fairly well here. Okay, I get probably one of the biggest problems that I see in a lot of writing, especially business writing, is we get rambling sentences and rambling paragraphs, where a sentence can end up being that long. And make your sentences short and concise. Okay, sentences should be kind of short and concise. We tend to write how we speak, and we ramble when we speak. But when we write and when we read, we like to read short, concise sentences. So keep that in mind. A lot of times if you have a but or an and in there, you can put a period and start a new sentence and be just fine. Okay? Not all the time. You're going to have some buts and some ands. I get that. But kind of watch that. Try to not get those rambling sentences. Some, I get people that submit things and I'll read one sentence like 6 times and I still can't figure out what it says because it was a rambling sentence. So, go back and reread it. Get somebody to proofread it for you. Get a couple people to proofread it for you. That's fine. And then your conclusion has to summarize your findings. In other words, you're going to give me a recommendation, right? Your findings are that this is a good company or not. So, okay. Only 15% of the paper goes to the history and the industry that it competes in. So again, not a lot of emphasis on that. I'm saying that you're going to write me a paragraph about each of those, right? Maybe a relatively short paragraph about each of those, okay? The strategy. You're going to write me maybe a little longer paragraph about the company strategy, how they plan to accomplish things. And so when I say, they're either a differentiator, yeah, you could write that in one sentence, but obviously I'm expecting a little bit more here, that you're going to tell me a little bit about how they're implementing their strategy, what they plan to do about it. It's going to be in the annual reports, just about assuredly, okay? So you're going to tell me, what they're planning to do, how they plan to go about it, how they're going to reach their goals, etc. By the way, Caterpillar reported today. How'd they report? Golly. They actually had really good earnings and good sales, but their stock plummeted. Why? They didn't give a forecast. Okay, and a lot of companies or a lot of analysts expect that they're going to give forecasts about how they're going to do, and Caterpillar was hesitant to do that this time, and so that makes the market think that Caterpillar thinks that maybe things are going to slow down a little bit, but who knows? Anyhow, I digress, sorry. 40%, right? So think about that. If you're going to write a 5-page paper, okay, you're going to have an intro and a conclusion, and maximum 5-page, by the way. It's maximum 5-page, not minimum, but maximum. But it ought to take you close to 5 pages to get all this in there. So, I expect most of it to be, or not most of it, but a good plurality of it to be about your financial analysis, right? Okay, you're going to identify major financial data. That's where, again, it get a little bit ambiguous because I think for each company that changes a little bit. You know, if you're writing about an insurance company, that's different than an industrial company. I mean, they just go about business differently, and so we have to do that. Depth of analysis, right? So we got breadth. This is breadth, probably. This is the depth then. You know, how deep you go into kind of looking at that and what you find in those particular areas and whatnot. Do you present it logically? Some folks like to present it based on maybe the major financial statements, and that's fine. I'm going to look at the income statements and the history of the last maybe 4 or 5 years of the income statements for this particular company, balance sheet for this particular company, cash flow for this particular company, and you might look at some ratios then or some other things like that, right? So it gives you, you can present it like that. That's a perfectly fine way to do it. Some people like to maybe look at it chronologically, meaning, okay, if I go back and I look at the income balance sheet, cash flow and whatnot of this company 5 years ago, this is where they were at. You know, this is what's happened in the ensuing 5 years, and kind of here's where they're at today. So chronologically would be a logical way to do it as well. So again, you kind of look at that yourself, you know, and if you get a little bit of that in your outline, I can kind of look at it and say, oh, okay, I see where you're going. That sounds pretty reasonable. Or anytime between now and the final submission of it, you know, let me know and we'll take a look at it and make sure that it's logical. But kind of think about doing it in one of those two ways. If you got some other way of doing it, that could be fine. Maybe run it by me first. So, okay, and then conventions, we kind of get back to some of the other things too, right? The paragraphing, grammar's got to be right, sentence structure. I'm not the best writer in the world. Okay, so but I still end up correcting a lot of stuff. So if I'm not a great writer and I'm correcting a lot of stuff, then that means that we've got some problems there, right? So, so I'm catching things. So be precise, be accurate, write well, take a little time, have somebody help you. You can go to student support if you want to. Okay, they're more than willing to proofread some things for you. You know, are they going to find everything? No, but they're going to help quite a bit. Like I've said often, and I'm guilty of this probably worse than anybody, I can write something, I can read it myself 5 times and miss something, and you hand it to somebody and they look at it, it just, the mistake jumps right off the page for whatever reason. So get somebody to help proofread it. No matter how good of a writer you think you are and whatnot, it always helps to do that. So punctuation, capitalization, etc. So questions about those two things? Your assignment this week is just the outline, right? And I think I give you some examples here. There's a couple different ways. You know, you can do an outline. You can just open up Word and kind of start at the top, put an eye up there, and it'll know that you want to do an outline basically. Here's just an example, right? So introduction, capture the reader's interest. So you got a sentence there, build the case kind of through the logic a little bit. And that's also probably where you're going to tell me you're going to introduce the topics or preview or summarize the main topics and whatnot. And you got the topics down here. So you feel free to use that, but you don't have to. Like I say, you can also open up, I think I've got another one here. Let me see how that one looks. Yeah, there you go, kind of. This tells you more how you go ahead and set up an outline, but it also is in an outline form, so you could kind of use it as well. But you can also just, oops. Yeah, let me, you can start with a new document like this, put your title up here if you want to, come down. If you go, I think if you go like I period, it just automatically then assumes you're doing an outline, and it'll start kind of doing that for you. Oops. So you type stuff, hit return, it's there, but if you hit the tab, that takes you into a little A. Okay, and so it'll kind of automatically do an outline format for you. So do that. Try to give me enough information in this so that I know where you're going with it. You know, if you want to be sure that you're going to do the intro and conclusion right, you know, summarize the topics in your outline here up there, you know. Summary, or you can even put summary of topics, you know, will be included, something like that up there. Okay, I don't expect you to do your financial analysis, but I would like to know how you're logically going to present that. You know, are you going to do it chronologically? Maybe are you going to do it by the various statements? And doing it by the various statements doesn't mean you're not doing those chronologically. You probably are, right? But you're just going to organize it by income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, maybe that type of an arrangement. So versus the other way, you're going to be, you know, 5 years ago to this is what happened in 2015, this is what happened in 2016, kind of that type of an arrangement would work as well with the various statements underneath it. So, okay, makes sense to everybody? Sorta? Okay, these don't, you know, your final paper counts by far more in terms of the credit, but it's kind of nice if you do these little things along the way, do them correctly, you know, obviously that's going to help a lot when it comes to the final paper. So I will quit talking, let you guys get back to work, because you got a few things to do today.